Guys, how's it going? I'm Ezra, and welcome to Poetry Matters. Oh God, my voice is... All right. I'm really nervous.
You got it.
Oh my God.
It's all good.
All right. So I don't have amplification for my guitar, but I'm gonna give it a shot and hopefully not get too nervous. There's a camera on me.
You got it.
Got it, bro. You got it.
Oh my God. Oh. Oh my God. Me and all my friends, we were all misunderstood. They say it was time for nothing, that there's no way we ever could. Now we know what's going wrong, and the world knows a lead. We just feel that we don't have the means to rise above and beat it, so we keep on waiting. Oh, waiting on the world to change. And we keep waiting, waiting on the world to change. It's hard to beat the system when we're standing at a distance. We keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change. And if we had the power to bring our neighbors home to war, there won't be no more Miss Christmas, no more ribbons on the door. Oh my God, I'm sorry guys. I'm just too nervous to do this. No. I'm just gonna leave it at that. You know what? I'm sorry. Can somebody take the mic from me? Oh my God. Sorry. I wasn't the best.
Give them another hand. How many of y'all have been on the mic? You got nervous? It happens. It still happens. So no. Thank you, Mr. Ezra Hampton. Whatever. When you're famous, remember us. A line from that song says, "Now we see everything that's going wrong with the world and those who lead it. We just feel like we don't have the means to rise above and beat it. So we keep waiting, waiting on the world to change." Though this mindset is often attributed to millennials, it is present in all generations. But the broken backbone of American society will not be healed by applying the ointment of apathy. We cannot sit back and judge leadership from our phones, hoping that one day, years from now, we'll finish our glass of tea, get up out of the rocking chair, and this country will have magically improved. It is not going to happen. When less than 24 hours ago, white nationalists marched on the campus of higher learning, carrying torches and spewing ignorance through chants like "White Lives Matter," "One People, One Nation," "End Immigration," and, quote, "The heat here is nothing compared to what you're going to get in the ovens. We have work to do." So tonight, we're going to pick up on our discussion about race, racism in America, and hopefully racial reconciliation. Tonight, our focus is going to be race in children of color in current America, the talk, and police-citizen interaction, including how to react to the shooting of Philandro Castile. But we begin with our poetic open mic segment like we do every time. For those who don't know me, my name is Arron Snow. I'm a volunteer with the Poetry Matters Project, which I'll be telling you more about here later on. I will be your MC and moderator for tonight. As always, we would like to cover our guidelines for the open mic. We ask one poem per person, brief introduction. Also, the Book Tavern is a family-friendly place. Therefore, we ask poems to not be vulgar are full of perverse speech or have any overtly offensive language. Obviously, because of what we're talking about as well. So I want to call up our first poet. You know him well, Mr. Calvin W. Pennywell Jr. Give him a hand.
Thank you, thank you. The piece I'm going to read will actually be sort of an epigraph in reference to my mom, Dr. Denise Pennywell. I wanted to take an opportunity. I barely write about her, the reason being is because I honestly feel that my words will never be enough. But I realized I would do her an injustice if I never tried. So, the name of this poem, I read it earlier this morning at the downtown market, and I was reminded that this would be fitting for tonight, so I decided to read it again. The name of it is Legacy. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, this little girl was number 7 of 10 kids. Smiling in a family photo, her younger brother was growing inside her mother. She graduated from college as the only black in her class. She painted, sketched, drew life as it appeared to her. One day, she was asked to teach Sunday school. Education would become the only husband that knew she was fit for. It gave her golden apples and crystal plaques. Shiny things for his favorite girl. She put herself aside to make room for my 2 sisters and I. No ponies and loud music on birthdays, just dinner at Shoney's with hidden presents in the trunk of a sedan. She taught thousands of students how to grab from learning like a bag of candy. Some lessons were sweet, others left an impression they couldn't shake, even as adults. Specializing in constructing classrooms, concocting curriculums to challenge children, she felt to do more, so she did. Wanting to mark her steps, she studied for more ways to advance her students, help them gain and guard the mind. The DR in front of her name doesn't just stand for dissertation reported or destination reached, but deeply respected. Listening on her knees beside a lamp, bowing down lower than the sandals of Moses, she repeats verses even as the sun interrupts. Not getting up until all is said, she lives for him knowing nothing else works. She awaits grandkids to spoil, watch as they reflect us in scattered ways. I'm telling you the tale of a hero who saved me by saving herself. Thank you.
You will get to meet the woman in that poem here shortly. Our second poet of the night, a face you've seen, a face that's getting more and more popular in the area. I enjoy hearing his voice. Conscience, welcome him to the microphone, please.
Good afternoon or evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Conscience. That's K-A-H-N, Science, all together. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. The piece I'm going to do today is, it wasn't written for tonight's topic, but I believe it does fit because everybody's trying to get their word, their message out there, and it's entitled, What's Your Message? So I'm just going to do this piece real quick, and then we'll continue on with the show. All right, so it's called What's Your Message? What's the difference between a message and a massage? The distribution of mental wisdom relaxes mental schisms the same as back rubs cure racking pain and muscle twitches. A message, when written, requires nimble fingers that leave lingering sensations. Sages leave verbal wisdom that lasts till kingdom come. Sage cures all kind of ails under the sun. My grandfather always said, son, don't worry about the messenger. What's the message? So I ask you now, what's your message? After you are planted in dirt, what seeds will you have sown? The roads that grew from concrete despite the distractions of trampling feet intended to crush dreams, tell me what's your message? That of Martin Luther King's? That of the caged bird that sings? Never stop until the fact that his voice brings in your ear the song of complete freedom that closed curtains bring. What's your message? Will it fly like wings? Will it keep you alive? Will it keep you going knowing that the future is unknown? Does your message inspire to keep rowing merrily down the stream that can rapidly turn into a whitewater rapid? Is your message deep like leagues under the sea where Atlantean kids foray, or vapid like a rapper's wordplay? What's your message? If you don't know, now you know that being ignorant of that answer should cause anxiety. Your life is now a liability until you find the ability to exhibit fluently verbal artistry of what your message can paint onto the canvas of minds intelligently that cause those same Siskel and Ebert cerebellums to think critically. What's your message? Literally. Figuratively, your message should travel speedily like light. Is your message that beacon? So bright that the preacher said you did that and the deacon said that boy turned. Your message to schoolboys and men and signal cues to put in work when the water runs dry. Your message should be catered to your intended audience, not be fraudulent like financial charges, cause pauses like PlayStation to make people stop playing games and pay attention. What's your message? Does it cause dissension or drive like pensions? During annotation, does your message cause friction in the... Does your message cause dissension or drive like pensions? During annotation, does it ignite documentation, or is it ignorant like lit blunt papers and bong vapors around smart, dumb smokers? What's your message? Is it stronger than gasoline odor? Just as flammable? Does it devour lists of messages like a cannibal? Is it wild like thornberries or just as childish? Does it shine like a star or wish upon one? Does your message bear fruit like cherries, or does it bust them, the opposite of Mary? Is it scary? It should be. What's your message? Is it intolerant like dairy, unrealistic like fairies? What's your message? Find it like lost keys, they open doors. When you know your message, you know your goals. When you know your message, the world is yours. Thank you.
I'm telling you, you never know what's coming to the mic. Before we get into our discussion, I'm thankful, again, the organization I volunteer with, led by one of the most amazing people ever, Lucinda Clark. She is always, from the beginning, she was like, you know, if you love your writing, your craft, stick with it. So thank you for always encouraging me, because we get busy. And she told me, she's like, you get busy with this stuff, and you quit writing, and then, so, I'm going to go back to an older piece, though, because of Charlottesville, and, well, I'm just going to leave it at that, because dear Lord. This is called Day of Reckoning. Reckoning, in some face, it is a visible justice on earth. For others, it is the moment after death. Yet as I watch movies and documentaries and protests and tweets, I am more and more confident it is both. We will answer for the mindset that people were better off being enslaved simply because they did not live or look like us. We will answer for the withholding of rights in education and economic advancement. We will answer for creating a class system based on skin color, segregating seats in schools, restrooms, and restaurants. Yes, we will answer for a system created by our own hands, where racism has replaced a whip with handcuffs and a plantation with maxed out prisons. What makes this ebb and flow of inerrant thinking so dangerous in generations to come? It is now the undertow of our society. How so? We get defensive about a 16-character hashtag, Black Lives Matter. We get up in arms over a 60-second trailer on Netflix. Because the first three letters aren't all the same, we consider the alt-right OK, KK. We still ask to touch someone's hair, yet we don't ask to shoot someone's son or father. I feel the weight of guilt and sorrow and white privilege helplessness when I drive by pre-Reconstruction era fences in Virginia, knowing they were built with the blood of busted knuckles, the sweat of a sunburnt brow, tears of a hopeless heart, yet their bodies were not the same skin tone as my own. I look deeper still in my Alabama family tree, and I see branches bowing from the consistent weight of strange fruit, where the N-word wasn't used when singing along to Tupac, but instead to label unidentified criminals. After all of this contemplation and investigation and numerous conversations, I, an artisan of words, ask what I can do. How can I even dare to add commentary to the works of Martin and Malcolm, Douglas and Baldwin, Ellison and Northrop, Hughes and Angelo, Du Bois and West, Cornell, Simone and Lauren, A Tribe Called Quest and Common. Each line I write is like wearing lead shoes while walking across a minefield. I want to reach a better place, but I'm afraid I will lose my legs in the process. I must at least try. I must, at the least, try to reach out. I must, at the very least, try to reach out to my brother and sister each day. And though it may sound pessimistic or apocalyptic, I must say this. No matter what faith, creed, or God you hold fast to, one statement that tends to be more of an axiom stands out to me. What goes around comes around. There will be a day of reckoning. Well, you are always the exception. Please welcome to the mic Miss Lucinda Clark.
Terrible thing is I have to follow him, but I've been working on this poem. I don't get, now that Snow's been working on some things, I get to actually write sometimes. And so I wrote a poem. It revolves around the word transition. It's titled Transition from How Things Used to Be. Transition. It's a word that has been used so many ways recently in politics, tragedies, and self-awareness exercises. Some people used to use it to refer to a passing from life into the next realm. And sometimes it's used to describe a political movement as peaceful, global, forceful, to some yet-to-be-determined destination. We are forced into transition like when we move from complacency to activism, from silent voices to shouting from rooftops, from private belief to open declarations to God, from secure to insecure, from fired up to numb, from confident to bullied, in solitude, in public, within families. We pray and send prayers and ask for prayers and declare that only certain prayers can be heard, are good enough to really count. We keep it real, then apologize, or not. We scroll social media as we at the same time condemn it while feeling powerless or too powerful to stop it. We believe that to be polite is correct until we find that curbing political correctness will get us attention and hopefully what we believe we deserve. We know that reaching out in our world is right until we find reaching out has a price. We used to teach, that's our children, that it is important to expand our worldview and to be independent in our thinking. We now know in some situations that the price for such activity will only make you a target. Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your name?
Charleston.
Charleston?
It's like Carson, but Charleston.
I'll let you say it. I messed up the names enough. You gonna read that poem you were telling me about earlier?
I do two. They're real
No,
short.
we gotta do one.
They're real short. They're short.
I gotta do one.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Charleston Anthony. This one is not really based on the theme of what's going, what everybody's talking about today. But I just, generally speaking, want to introduce myself, as a poet who loves to write and deliver, and learning from who I feel are the best, the masters. Robert Frost is my the greatest. Okay, but that aside, I mean the Romantics. All right. So this one is just a general introduction to who I am, and in poetic form. This is called a mistaken grandeur. Mistaken grandeur. I'm the greatest poet you haven't read. A native American luxury, cableless, defiant, and fluttery, fiddled by ink-rooted verses that said, not so literary, the thoroughbred, that pound surpassed to Eliot's apathy, nor bookworm Shakespeare's greater tragedy. My stresses accent possibly instead, between the reflex and expectation, when loose plots on blank memory rehearses, rhyme recesses that scheme themselves branding, freedom to the measure's abstract persuasion overruns to how when each converses through all the ends I missed understanding.
Give one more hand to everyone that shares so far. As we look at our discussion this evening, I'm very excited about our guest tonight. Just to let you know, after we introduce, I've asked, maybe they brought it with them, if they had any personal writing they were wanting to share. I know Anthony he's got a catalog of stuff. But I've got 3 questions that I sent to them earlier this week, kind of let them ponder on, meditate on, and then we'll kind of open the floor. Again, our focus tonight are on the topics of raising children of color in current America, the talk, and police-citizen interaction, especially in conjunction with Philandro Castile. So let me introduce an amazing lady, as you've already heard in poetry form, Dr. Denise Pennywell. This is her very humble bio. Dr. Pennywell, you can do whatever you want to do. Honestly, you have the floor tonight. Dr. Pennywell is the mother of 3 wonderful children. That includes Calvin, apparently. She is also an educator who has been in the profession for 38 years. Can we give a hand to her? Do you understand this is your last year? So, we are losing.
Not in education, just in the classroom.
It's from what I understand, education is a lifestyle, right? So, it has always been her goal to make a memorable impact in the lives of children in many ways. Mr. Anthony Sleepy Eyes Carter. Born Anthony Carter is an American spoken word artist from Augusta, Georgia, hometown. Blending social political perspective with deep-rooted spiritual teachings, Sleepy challenges his listeners to think and take notice in the world around them. Also a motivational speaker and spiritual guide, Sleepy Eyes has recently fully embraced his place in God's vineyard as a minister. Please welcome our 2 guests tonight. way.
Oh, okay.
There you go. We'll see how this works, hopefully. Hopefully we can bounce between the two microphones. If you have, I have 3 questions. To kind of get them started, but if you have a question or comment as they're speaking, I'll be kind of keeping an eye out for the crowd. Just kind of raise your hand, that way I can acknowledge you and we can get to your question or comment as we go along, but we're going to start with these 3 after their personal reading. So Dr. Pennywell, would you start us off?
Okay, ever since my kids were born, I would always write in the mornings. I would write, do my devotion or do just write it. So when he said about the talk, well, I'm going to read a section of one of my diaries. This is in 1993 when CJ was a little big boy, and this is the kind of talk that we had. This was written at 5:20 p.m. In the evening. Natalie and Natasha had spent the night with a friend. CJ and I spent the day together. We spent time in the library. We watched videos. We had a few talks. It was a nice, quiet day. December the 31st. CJ and I were having a conversation. I was complaining about how tired I was and how tired I was having so many problems. Just drinking milk, it just made me sick. And CJ looked at me and said, you don't have to be sick, Mama. I said, why? He said, just stop taking the milk, stop drinking the milk. So those were the kind of conversations we had. Those are the kind of conversations we had concerning the time we spent together. I just want to share that with you. And that's throughout all my writings, all my morning devotions, that consists of those kind of conversations with God concerning my children.
I wake up every morning. I have a normal morning routine that I normally do every morning. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you probably see the videos that I do, the morning inspiration videos that I try to consistently do all the time to encourage people on their day. Something I put this morning, so I'm not going to do a poem or anything like that. I did have one in connection with the talk, but I'm going to kind of just not do that right now. But it's something I said was, the walls are falling all around you. That's fine. That's the beginning of the reconstruction of your life. Those are things that I will write and always write, and sometimes they might be openly put out for people to see, but believe it or not, they're just as much of an encouragement for me, because Lord knows, as an artist, father, husband, entrepreneur-minded, full-time job, I need all the inspiration that even I could get. And I think that's anybody that's sitting in the audience, and even both of us on this panel at this time. So let the walls fall. It's not going to hurt you if you let them fall. Just get out of the way when they fall so you don't get crushed under them.
So our first question is, because Dr. Pennywell has raised her 3 children, so it's kind of a past and present tense. And Anthony is still raising. They're not young. They're growing up fast on you. I see them in the pictures. We'll be taller than you soon enough. But the first question is, what is it like to raise your children in current America?
Well, since my kids are older now, raising them, and I'm a single mom, and to raise my children it was not easy. I'll be lying if I say it was. It was not easy. So when my children encountered situations that they didn't quite understand, like this particular mother in the video did with hers, my concern was to make sure that you become the best person that you could be. And like the young lady said before, sometimes that made you a target. And with CJ, we call his eyes virgin eyes. And the reason why we call CJ's eyes virgin eyes because he didn't see the things that his sisters and I saw. When someone who reached out to shake somebody's hand and someone just put their hand away, he just knocked it off and kept going. Whereas the girls and I would try to explain to him the situation. But knowing God and knowing how I feel about God, knowing that God loves everybody. I tried my best to ensure my kids that be the best that you can be, because you're more than that. Just make sure that you're strong and confident in who you are. And raising the kids, like I said, it wasn't easy, because we encountered several situations with that where I had to come about and explain things, which I had no one to explain it to me. When I was coming up during that time with segregation, integration, when I was coming up during that time, I had no adult to explain that to me. And by the grace of God, I got through that. So I try to keep myself knowledgeable enough to explain that to my children as they come up.
For me and mine, one thing me and my wife, well, at least me for sure, we try to do is be as blunt with our children. I think sometimes we can, and as the good doctor said, virgin eyes can come from, and this is not against anything she just said, you did what you needed to do. And also explaining was a good thing, and I'm glad you said that, because so often we can keep our children ignorant to what's really going on around them, and we think we're protecting them, when in actuality, you're doing more harm than good. It's kind of like the kid that you sheltered, and then you wonder why when they went off to college, they lost their mind and came back home. It's because you didn't give them the proper tools, because you wanted to shelter them, and you thought that was the best thing to do. So one thing that we do in my home for sure is when we sit down at the dinner table and eat, that is a time to have straightforward, real, honest conversations about any and everything that's going on in life. As far as current America with the things that is going on, I try to explain to them exactly what's being seen on the TV screen, what's being portrayed in movies, what's being portrayed on Disney Channel, on Nickelodeon, because we so often get into this habit where we think current America is just simply our relations between whites and blacks, or our relationship between the police, or this current state and that current event that's going on, Islamic terrorism and all that other stuff, when there's so many other things that are going on in current America. Current America is my children having a cell phone and being able to have their hands at the fingertips of any type of information that they can get. Current America is my children being able to walk down the street in Augusta, Georgia, where we still live in a divided city of Augusta being Richmond County itself on one plane, Columbia County, Evans Martinez being its own plane, but my kids are getting to see that there are white people on Broad Street, and it's not just blacks only. Current America is not just what we always painted to be from 1991 or 1963. Current America is 2017, and we have to consider the conditions in which our children are having to live in. Current America is we have to explain why a young woman wants to change her name, her gender, who she is and how she is, into a different gender. That's current America that we live in. And the questions of, Daddy, why is this acceptable? Should it be acceptable? Those are the conversations that we have to have. And I have to have them as blunt, I have to have them as honest, and I have to have them as open, because there's so much information at these kids' fingertips that if I'm not open and honest with my kids, somebody's going to, in my personal opinion, whether you agree with me or not, my personal opinion is somebody's going to come along the wayside, pull their coattail, and lie to them. Because I did not pour into them exactly what they needed to know, exactly what the tools they needed to survive. I think in today's society, as a parent, just to let you know, I have a 14-year-old, counting backwards, 14-year-old, yeah, that's right, 14, 12, and 10. Okay, I have a 14-year-old, 12-year-old, and 10-year-old. Me and my wife have been married 15 years. So I have kids right in the thick of it. At all levels. One's in 9th grade now, one's in middle school, one's in elementary school in the 5th grade getting ready to cross over. I got 2 boys and a little girl. So just imagine in today's society the type of conversations I have to have. But we have to also understand that the conversations you had to have was present and relevant for the time and the situation, and that was real then. Our conversations today have to be relevant and present for the days and times that we live in, and they have to be real now. And it's also based upon experiences. That's one thing that I've also learned when it comes to raising our kids in current America. But me as a black male, as a black father, raising my children in actual in America today, it is to tell them that racism does still exist. It is to tell them that, please, respect the police as best as you can, because I want you to make it home safe. It is, look, I need to see your phone whenever I want to see your phone, because I want to make sure you ain't doing no foolishness on your phone. It's still, and it's even still today, no locked doors in my house. Matter of fact, 2 of the doors in my home ain't even got the doorknobs on them. You know, but it's not snatching away privacy or anything like that from them. So I think so often we look at raising children in current America off of the basis of the different type of families we have now, the single parent population increasing, the different types of homes that we run into, and then we're running across a lot more mixed couples than we ever had. You go to some cities outside of Augusta, Georgia, Alabama and stuff like that, you see a high percentage of interracial couples and things of that nature. These are the realities that we live in, but I think what we need to get to when it comes to raising children of any race, but especially of color, is to be openly honest about everything that is occurring in life. My kids come home and they talk about the gangs that are inside their school, right? I have to be open and honest to my children to tell them I used to be one of them kids. How easy it is to open up yourself for your children to see every scar that you have, and so often we don't. It's kind of like going to the family reunion and you finding out the girl that you're dating is actually your first cousin, but nobody wanted to tell you because she was a quote-unquote mistake type stuff. So I think raising children in current America now, you're going to see a lot more parents be a lot more blunt than they've ever been about what's going on in the culture, about what's going on in their cities. Because of what this is catalysting off of on the third question, because of the current events that we have, the ideal is this: I have to now be straightforward because they're going to see it on the TV screen and then somebody's going to be in their ear at school. But I think it was the same thing back then, certain things that we saw. But it's just now we think we live in this world where there is none of this going on. It shouldn't be. It's 2007. It shouldn't be. Well, that's a fairy tale ideal that we live in, and we have to actually face reality on both sides of the matter.
Questions, thoughts? Make sure. It's very true. And we, as of last month, we did the 50-year anniversary of Love and First Virginia. Digging into that now. Second question, and I preface it because of who I am. Growing up, I can't even remember, but I know it was after college. So I was in my 20s before the talk took a different meaning, or I understood there was a different meaning. For most of us, it is the birds and the bees. This is okay. You're old enough to know the stuff. The stork doesn't bring a baby, but in my studies and in, thankfully, friendships and people I knew, I came to understand that there was a different talk taking place in non-Caucasian homes between parents and children in reference to how to act around police or the appropriate behavior to keep yourself safe. So my second question being two-part. One, have you had the talk with your children, or did you have the talk? And if so, what did that interaction look like between you and your children?
You talking about like with the police? Or you talking about sex?
Yeah, as far as the police.
Basically, you put sex.
No, he said other than the sex.
I'm glad you clarified that because I wouldn't know last time.
He said.
Oh, okay.
I would have been fired after. So, yes, in reference to the police. Thank you for.
Well, no, I did not have the talk. I'll be honest. I did not have that talk with my children at all. My goal was to teach them to be independent and be sure about themselves. I did not, but I wish that I did. In reference to what he said about his raising his children, I wish more parents of the current times now would do that, because as a teacher and an educator, that would roll over into me. So like I said, when back in the day, no, I didn't have the conversation. But if I was raising children now, yes, that conversation is part of it. But I never would have thought that the time would come when I had to teach my child how to act when they saw policemen, other than how do you do, sir, thank you for your service, or thank you for helping. I never would have dreamed that it would come a time when I needed to have had this talk with any child in reference to, the policeman come to you, make sure you don't do this, make sure you don't do that. But if parents today did have that talk, not only would The conversation with a policeman, interaction with a policeman would be different. The interaction with anybody in authority would be different. So I give him thumbs up the way he's raising his, because I, as an educator, see that and it rolls into it when that's being done.
So you're right. I have the talk. We consistently have the talk. It's not this one-time deal. It's a consistent theme. It's a consistent conversation. And I'll even make this mention, since I thought it was about it, I'll even mention this. My daughter, she's in the 5th grade. We've had to talk about sex. Darn right. And if you think it's a game, you need to really check it out, because you need to have it even in elementary school. Appreciate that. You need to even have it in elementary school. But aside from that, we've had to talk in the conversation about interaction with the police. But the reason why my catalyst for it is not because of the videos that you see. It's not because of the current situations that is going on, which, let me correct my mouth with that. We call it current situations, but I'm gonna be honest with you. The interaction with blacks in the police, minorities in the police, poor people in the police have always been like that for years upon years. It's just right now, every citizen in America has a camera. And regardless of how quality it might be, I can capture whatever I want. So just you sitting here rubbing your beard right now, you can be a meme on Facebook. You get what I'm saying? Because everybody has access to a camera. So the idea of this concept of quote unquote, the current situation, and it's not current, it's been going on. We need to get that out of our heads, because if it's something that I said to somebody in a general conference, matter of fact, it was I can't remember where it was, but I made this comment. It's not so much the statistics that is reported of police brutalities or police killings, it's the ones that are not reported.
Come on.
That kind of makes you be like, hold on. Wait a minute, it's the number of kids that are abused, or young teenagers abused, going into the holding cells by the police officers, or the interrogation rooms and things of that nature. So that's a little caveat for you guys. But as far as the talk, the catalyst for the talk for my children, and I hold my head down in saying this, but I also hold it up because I came out of it, was because of my history in the streets. And having to run across interaction with the police all the time, being pulled over, told to sit on the curb, I'm going to see my mama, and because I got on Dickies and some Chucks and a white t-shirt, I'm being questioned to the 23rd power on why I am in this neighborhood. Do I have any business in this neighborhood? Who do you know that's in this neighborhood? It's also walking to school with my homeboys. We actually have books in our hands and our student IDs on our neck, because at the time when you was going to Richmond, and I think any other school back in 99, 2000, you had to have one of the identification badge when you went up there, and it was connected to a lanyard. Okay, I remember this, walking up the street to get to the bus stop. This cop that passes by me every single day and sees us walking to the bus stop stops to ask us for our ID and personal information. Bruh, I don't have anything. I'm going to school. I got a school ID and some books, cuz. You get what I'm saying? Or walking to the corner store and being asked if you have ID, consistently always running into the police. And I will be honest, some of the things that I got pulled over by the police for and got stopped by, I was legitimately in the wrong. You see what I'm saying? I will honestly say that. But because of those things mixed with things that I think was really some messed up stuff that shouldn't have happened and things of that nature, it caused me to sit down with my kids and have those conversations. And not waiting until it's a situation, because so often most parents wait until, like you said, they're about to go off to college. Or watch this, I hand you over the car keys. Now I want to give you the talk on how to interact with the police. Pee on that. You need to have the conversation with your kids, because of the simple case is, my son has to go, like, I'll give you an example. In our neighborhood, right across the street is Richmond County Board of Education Police. Right up the street, there's another Richmond County police officer. Down the street used to be a murder investigation police officer, right? He moved out of the neighborhood. So we're growing up seeing cop cars in our neighborhood all the time, but they live there, okay? It's a big difference, right? But here's the interesting thing. Even then, my son has to go so far down the street. He says, Dad, I want to go play basketball. All right, I know where the goal is. You can't go no further than that, right? If you go further than that, you can get knocked out. And if somebody comes up and says, I say, have you seen Uzziah? Yeah, he's down the street. You're good. But if they say, I didn't see Uzziah, he's going to get knocked out, okay? I got to know where my son is at all times. But this is the thing that I'm getting at. He's been instructed, while you're out there by the court playing ball with your friends, if the police stop, this is how you act. This is what you say. This is what you do. What are you doing out here, young man? My name is Uzziah Carter. My dad and my mom is right up the street. They live at 3251 Peninsula Drive. I will gladly go down there with you so you can conversate with them, but I will cooperate with whatever you need at this time, Mr. Officer. And what's the sad part is, if we really want to talk about the talk, and you really want to get an inside look on what it feels to have the talk with a child of color, we don't teach our children. I'm not going to say we as in the collective, but there are those of us who are parents of color that teach our kids, look, respect the police, not because they're there to protect you, but respect them because out of fear. I don't need you to get killed. I need you to make it home at the end of the day. And he's just down the street at the age of 14. He's just down the street playing ball at the age of 14. But what if some young kids that's teenagers decide to go sit on the green box? We used to sit on the green box back in the days, right? Go sit on the green box and they out there smoking marijuana. Regardless of your thoughts about marijuana, if it's illegal, it's wrong. Okay, let's just put it right there. You're out there smoking marijuana. The police stop, and my son is out there playing ball right next to the green box. All of them become guilty by association, period, because they're out there right there on that corner or right there on that side where that green box is. It's not just the person with the marijuana on them. The police is going to probably end up starting looking at all of them. Not every case, but it can happen. I have to teach my son, and it's sad that, son, respect the police, not because they're there to protect you, but because at the end of the day, they might just shoot you, and I need you to make it home safe. That is a sad, sad way to get across having respect for authority figures. But if you talk to a lot of people of color that are raising kids today, I can't speak for back in the days, but even my parents, the way they taught me to respect the police wasn't just on the basis of, look, if you ever need them, call 911. No, it's on the basis of, look, bro, I just need you to make it home safe. I need you to make it home safe. So when we talk about the talk in respect to authority figures in society, I'm very blunt, very open with my kids, and I try my best to let them know there are good cops out there. And I think we got too many parents of color probably out there teaching their kids that all cops is just criminals and they're wrong. When we need to start actually pointing out that, no, there are some decent, there are some outstanding cops. Matter of fact, me, your mom, and you play with the children of them. We are friends with some really, really good ones. So let's not paint every police officer to be just this criminal out there killing everybody, because you wouldn't want to be painted as a black person as being this drug dealer that's out there killing everybody. So it needs to be the same way with the police. We need to have that same respect for them, because not everybody is upholding to that same concept of, hey, you're black, you're wrong. No, or you're white, you're right. No, some of them are actually out there doing a legitimate job and they need to be applauded for it. But they also need to step up and start talking more. But I get it. Police officers like a gang within a gang within a gang within a gang within a gang. So I get it. I understand. But at the end of the day, that talk with my kids is very open, it's very honest. And I want to piggyback on something that the doctor said. It flows over into the school system. How does it flow over into the school system? When you teach respect for authority, not just you as the parent, respect me, the fear of God in you because I'm your mom, I gave birth to you, well, 9 months. All that's hogwash. It's one of those things where when they go to school, I guarantee you as an educator for how many years? You can pinpoint which child probably gets the proper teaching and guidance consistently at home by how they act in school. And then the parent got the nerve to show up at the school all shocked like he didn't know little Johnny was a doggone bad little child. You know what I'm saying? Like, not Johnny, yes, the one that you ain't doing right. You know, but it's that idea that I teach my kids bluntly and openly and honest with all type of information I can give them, because when they go to school, I need that to pour into the school. But not only that, when they're in front of any authority figure, it's going to be right. If you're going to act up in front of me so we can correct it. So when you're in front of authority, it goes across a whole lot better. And we actually do have conversations about the situations that do go on. I ask them, how do they feel about it? What is your thoughts about it? Do you see any issue with this? And they give me their feedback about it, how they feel about it, and things of that nature. And we're able to have that open and honest discussion and conversation. But you got to take the hate out of it and let your children first express themselves without the bias of you. Because one thing, they become a product of exactly what you're pouring into them. Son, how do you feel about what's going on with Trayvon Martin? Son, how do you feel about what's going on with this situation, that situation? Dad, this is how I feel about it. And I'm now able to guide him based upon what he told me without trying to be so biased about my feelings for things and things of that nature. And it's hard as a parent. Am I lying? It's extremely hard as a parent, man. You just like it's like Christian parents. You're gonna be Christian, and if you become Muslim, you got to get out of my house. It's like you got to be careful of that. But that's a reality we live in. Most parents are biased towards everything, and they're going to only pour into their kids exactly what they want them to be. We got to get into the habit of pouring into our children to build them up to be who they need to be. I don't need my child to be me. I need them to be them. They need to be the best thing they can be, but in front of authority figures especially.
Any questions, thoughts? Start with Ms. Lene.
Thank you. So, you both have sons. Have you ever had to have a discussion with your sons about dating white girls? How do you approach that topic without being racist?
Straightforward answer that I give mine. As long as they treat you right, as long as they respect you. Because I'm gonna tell you why I say that. It's interesting, and I love this, and I wish my kids had more of a cultural experience outside of Negro and Black America. Okay, I much love and power to my people, but we act like we the only people that live on this earth or something like that, man. This is just breathe. Come on, cuz. It's a lot of people out here. This is a huge world we live in, man. Not everybody is dark skinned with woolly hair, right? You know what I'm saying? Get the book of Revelation out your mind for a second real quick. But we go to a church that's predominantly white. Predominantly white. We live in they go to a school that's predominantly black. Most of the schools, you got Langford, you got Richmond, and I want to say Sue Brittle. Sue Brittle still got a decent little mixture in it. It honestly does. But Langford and Richmond, predominantly black schools, right? So, here's the thing. Will my kids, not just my son, but my daughter, will they bring home white girls? Probably so. If they do, just treat them right. Are you going to catch these 1-2s? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, just treat them right. And I think the reason why we get itchy about that whole, how do you have the conversation with kids who are dating interracially? Like, if I say I'm brought home a white girl, or my daughter brought home a white boy, I think it speaks to the insecurity in us. I really honestly do. It speaks to the insecurity in us. Not only does it speak to the insecurity in us, it's almost like a hint, sorry, no disrespect, you might speak out against me for this one, you might want to lynch me. It also speaks to a hint of racism in us. Yeah. It also speaks to a hint of racism in us. If we're talking about unity, if we're talking about growing as people, if we're talking about being a collective, and I'm not talking about this black dollar, black power collective, we're going to look at it as, if I own a business, let's put it this way. If I own a business, are you going to turn down a white customer? No, you'd be stupid to, right? At the end of the day, if we're moving towards a common goal of peace and equality and unity, if my son brings home somebody's white, I could care less. They can bring home somebody that's polka dot purple and pink with big stripes in their head, big feet, and all that. I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care. Because guess why I don't care? He has to live with her, not me. But I think it speaks to an insecurity in us with that because, number one, if I go out in public with this white girl that's dating my son, what are my friends going to think? If I go to church with it, it's all black, what are they going to think? If I do this, what is my community of black power people going to think? At the end of the day, sweetheart, I can care less what they think. My son's happy, ain't none of y'all paying his bills, and as far as I'm concerned, it does not matter. At the end of the day, it does not matter. We got to get to that point where we don't see that. We got to get to the point where we don't see that. I'll let you go.
Okay. In reference to my son, he was raised in a diverse environment. So when he told me he had a girlfriend, I never asked, was she black or white? Because it didn't matter. Like it just didn't matter because he was exposed to this type of environment from day one. So it's no issue, it's no problem with who my son dates or who he actually marries. It's up to him. As long as he loves this person loves him, it's okay with me.
The only people that got issues with it is closed-minded cultural people. I'm sorry. Your culture, your race, your gender, or whatever. It's on this section over here we only rock with. Well, why? It doesn't need to be like that. It doesn't need to be like that. We got to grow out of that. Because if that was the case, put a gun in your head and kill yourself because you're not 100% African. I'm sorry, I'm just blunt like that. I'm never going to be asked to come back to another panel discussion. Okay. I think conscience help. Conscience help.
Don't be stuck.
All right, so my question is on something you said earlier, Sleepy. When you're trying to, you know, teach your kids to respect authority and how to carry themselves a certain way, you know, culturally, and I guess maybe black culture, especially you being a hip hop artist, it's certain things in our culture that are detrimental or that go against the exact things that you're trying to teach as far as being respectful to the police in the mainstream. You know, you can control what you can control at home, but you also can't control what they hear outside. So how do you balance them being themselves, one to wear certain styles and like certain songs that you know you allow in your house, of course, and at the same time trying to counteract what it may have a negative impact on as far as interactions with authority and police?
Okay. This is how I look at it, right? My children, because we're open, my kids have come to us, Daddy, can we? Now I'm gonna start small and we'll grow big, right? Daddy, can we get, my boys, I want to get my ears pierced, Dad. All right, cool, you just gotta wait till this age. Dad, I want to get a tattoo. All right, cool, you gotta wait till this age. You see what I'm saying? Dad, I want to be able to do this and do that. All right, cool, you gotta wait till this age. Now, to get to the actual meat of your question, I can't control what happens when they leave the house, all right? Paranoia sets in, indeed. A little nervous, show you right, Ray, you know what I'm saying? I get it. But the reality is, I can't, listen to that, I can't control what his friends do. I can't control what his homeboys do. I can't control what the little girls are gonna do. I can't control how society's gonna view the way they dress. I mean, let's be 100% about it. You can't tell thugs from non-thugs nowadays because everybody's wearing skinny jeans and shirts that wrap around their body to the third degree of suffocation. You really can't tell no more. You know, it's hard to tell sometimes, right? When back in the days, the hoodlum was looked at as the dude with the what? With the hoodie on, with the backwards hat on, the baggy clothes or something like that. But that was just an expression of hip-hop coming from a cultural standard. You get what I'm saying? But it's the same thing. It's an expression of hip-hop and all other types of genres of music coming from a cultural standard, right? So, if my children want to express themselves with a mohawk, go ahead and do it. If they want to go out there, now, my daughter is not going to go out there with no Daisy Duke song and her breasts hanging out. It just ain't going to happen. There are some boundaries in this life that we live, okay? There are some boundaries I will place on my children, and I do place those boundaries, man. But at the end of the day, I have to accept the fact that I can't control them. So how do I deal with it? I pour into them what I can pour into them while they're in my presence. I hold myself at a standard of acting a certain way when they're in my presence and when they're outside of my presence. Because the last thing my children need from me, need to hear about their dad is this. Look, in front of dad, hey, yo, your dad probably act like that in front of y'all. But when he out there in public doing poetry, he a whole other person. Hey, he might be talking he faithful to his wife, but he hitting on every chick in the poetry scene. You know, I don't need that. Because then everything I pour into them means absolutely nothing to them. The minute you let your young people know that you're a hypocrite, you're a liar, and you're fake, is the minute they will not trust you. It's the minute they won't trust you. And they smell it a mile away, and they're going to run from it, and they're going to eat you alive because they're going to throw it in your face every chance you get. And all that, well, I'm your father, so you've lost the war. You've lost because you've made yourself out to be fake and phony in front of them. So when they're in my presence, man, the best thing that any parent can do, and the only thing you can do, bro, is give them what you can give them. The scripture says this: train up a child in the way that he should go, and he will not depart from it. It does not mean he ain't going to make mistakes. It does not mean he's not going to go out there and do something stupid. It just simply means in the back of their head, what daddy said is going to pop up in that dome. Because guess what? When me and my homeboys was making that turn to go get that package, popped in my head what mama would say. You're either going to listen to it or you want to ignore it. But if it's also something I tell my kids is this: It's kind of like this. I tell them, when you go to, if you do something, the consequences is going to follow. It's inevitable. Consequences are inevitable to every single action you do, right? So you did it the first time, you got caught, consequence. The second time, not the third, screw the third strike. The second time, what you have inevitably done is shown me that that is what you want to do, and regardless of the consequences to your actions. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's one of those things, you pour what you can into your child. You hold them accountable for their actions when they do mess up, but you do it in a way to where it's not going to make them feel like they can't be themselves. Because there's times I've had to even go to my own kids and say, you know what, I'm sorry for what I did. You know, so that's where I'm coming from it. Pour into them what you can, give them what you got. Once they leave home, you're right, you have no control. All you can pray to God today, look, just remember what I told you. Bye. Have a good one. Just remember what I told you. Yeah.
Any other questions?
As a parent, I've noticed that a lot of people that I've spoken to, like once they have kids, their biggest concern is, am what I'm doing working? So at one point in your life, it's evident that they're listening, or they're acquiring, utilizing the lessons that I've given them, those shining reminders, so to speak, in their life, because this should be the parent that you're trying to
You handle that. Yours is made. You done seen them out.
Well, when I see evidence that is working, or that what I have taught or what I have so preached is working, it's when a situation comes up and the way my child handled it. If he handled a situation that, hey, I know, like he said, you remember what I said, or the evidence is I see it. But even while I'm saying it, I see it. And I just say, yes, Lord. Thank you. So in order for me to know exactly, or to feel, or to see something that has been done that I know is happening, the evidence shows in itself in response to how my child acts, how you act today. When you come across a situation and you handle it a certain way, and I know that you, in the back of your mind, that you heard, like you said, heard your mom say, don't go this way. Boy, you'll say to yourself, and I know you have, my mama would not be proud. That's when I know. And it has happened. Like I said, I've been on this road a long time. It's happened numerous of times. And like today, I'm here today because of you. You've done what you wanted to do in your writing. You did what you wanted to do, and you made something of yourself. And because of you is the reason why I am here. That's evidence.
I pay attention to my kids. I mean, I pay attention to a lot of things. I'm an observer, right? I pay attention to the conversations with each other. Your conversations about what's going on, the conversations about what they see on TV. My wife and my daughter were sitting down watching something on TV that was dealing with dating, one of those dating shows or something like that. And my daughter was like, she said, I can't remember what she said, but when she said it, me and my wife looked at each other and said, we ain't gonna worry about that. But it's those ideals right there. That doesn't mean that she's not gonna make any crazy, stupid mistakes again. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I pay attention to how they react to it, what they're saying to each other. And I'm gonna give you another key to where you know if your child is on point. Pay attention to what the community is saying, what the teachers are saying about it. If you really want to know what your children are doing, go ask their teachers. Go ask their teachers. And tell them don't say that. And tell them don't be bull-jiving me with that Johnny Sweet stuff. Tell me the truth. What about my child? Your child is an angel with dirty wings, and he's going to hell tomorrow. But that's the reality that we live. I mean, that's the reality. The reality check that we all need is from those individuals that, have connections with them that is on a consistent basis just as much as us. If not, watch this, more than us. Because in today's society, if we're talking about in today's America, both parents ain't home for so long. So your child has free range to be whoever they want to be, or whoever society builds them to be. So if you really want to know the proof of your work, if you really want to know it, go ask the community. And if they come back, and it was amazing, my son, he had to go to summer school last year, right? And it hurt him because, I mean, he worked hard, man. He worked hard. He passed all his classes, but couldn't pass that test, the end of the year test. That is the devil's playground. God need to strike it down with the vengeance I call upon that in the name of Jesus. But he failed that test, right? And my wife sat down with the teacher, and the teacher looked at my wife and said, "I'm sorry." Well, my wife started crying, and every teacher she ran into that day said, "We're sorry. I wish I had more kids like Uzziah. I wish there was more students like Uzziah. I wish, and I'm so sorry he has to go through summer school, because they should let him go on, because he knocked it out of the park. And his, I mean, not just great performance, but the way he was in class." If you really want to know, ask the community, because the community going to tell you the truth about your kids.
My question is, we have a mixed audience here, and so it sounds to me like to be a parent of color is the same thing as being a parent not of color. So for the parents who are not of color here, is there anything that you can say to help them realize that we're all just bringing up contributors to the society, especially the educator, because I know you see both sides.
What is Mike ain't gonna make it?
Yes, it is. As an educator, I encounter all, like you said, all kids of all color. I encounter all of them. When, as a parent, because of the environment your child may be in, we still, as a parent, face some of the same issues. They just might not be as prominent as some of the others are, or some situation it may be. For an example, a child's mother came to school, and I had one that was not of color, and he had an issue at school. I talked to that child just like I would talk to a child of color. I tried to get that child to understand it's okay. It's okay. Whatever you say is okay. You're a good. I gave him all kinds of improvement, or all kinds of encouragement, because those kids sometimes feel like because they are not of color, that they don't have the same issues. Some parents think that because their kid is not of color, they might not have the same issues, but they do. They come to school with the same issues as kids of color. So when your child comes home and expressing himself about something that happened to him with another student that's not of color, then you still need to have a talk with that child. Not a negative tone, please, not a negative, a positive one, to let them know, I'm here for you. And anger and fear, all that has to be taken away. Because once you finish talking to that child has to come back to me. And when that child comes back to me, if he has had a good talk, with his parent, then he's going to be a lot stronger and a lot bolder student in my classroom. So yes, I talk to the kids of color, and I also talk to kids that are not of color. But I don't discriminate between either one, because they all have to learn. They all have to learn. And they all have to go back home. But when you talk to them at home, they have to come back to me. If it was a negative conversation, it was a conversation of, hey, I get it. I get the feel of it. Because he's going to come back with that same stuff with me. Then he's going to come back with the same stuff with other kids in the classroom. Because I have encountered that on both ends, where a parent has talked to a kid that is not color a certain way with hatred. It was, happened on the other end, and I got the both of that. So I know, so my advice to you is that when your child comes home with a situation about something that happened in school, be a positive parent. talk in a way that is going to encourage that child so they can not only be able to come back to school with a positive attitude, but be able to share something with someone else or help someone else along the way. Thank you.
So I have two questions that go in two different directions. One is about Charlottesville. You said that you talked to your kids about, like, what are your thoughts about Trayvon Martin? What are you responding to? So I wonder if either of you have had a talk with your kids about what's happened in Charlottesville. And the other question, which goes in a different direction, is when your kids are at school or in the community and they're with their white, if they have white friends, their white friends, do they, if they encounter racism, what do you think the best response is for their white friends? Because there tends to be that sort of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened after the fact. And then there's that other response of the white person being like, oh, I'm going to be savior in this situation. So I'm just curious if that's come up, because it seems like one of those sticky points that would be a challenge to talk through.
And now, how would you answer that? Because my kids are growing up.
Now, as far as Charlottesville, I haven't had the chance to really sit down and dive into an in-depth conversation with my kids yet. So I can't answer that. But on any other occasion, I can tell you about their responses. They are heartbroken. You can see the heartbreak in them. But what's interesting, when all this stuff started to transpire, stemming from Trayvon Martin and all this other stuff that built up with every single one, the first time it was just to them like, dog, that young boy, he should have never got killed. They didn't see it as a black male got killed. They didn't see it. At first it was just a young man got killed to them. As another video surfaced about this, another video surfaced about this, then their mind started to wiggle. Another black boy got killed. Now their use of words has changed. Black boy got killed. Dad, black boy got killed. Then my middle child, who's the most inquisitive out of all three of them, his language went to the most extreme. It's just treating this, it's how it is for black people. And the best response that I'm always able to give to them is to, first and foremost, don't ever look at what's going on in current America as means to where it hinders you from being better than just another black person. Or this is how they treat black people. And this is what happens to black people. The minute you have that mind frame, I tell my sons, the minute you have that mind frame, and even my daughter, is the minute you hinder yourself from achieving any and everything that you want to achieve. And contrary to popular belief, and amongst a lot of my black friends, they might not like this saying, if you talk to anybody that is in the armed forces, they will come back, no matter their race, no matter their creed, no matter their religion, for whatever reason. Because the furthest I've ever been is New Orleans. Well, I've been to California, but I was born in Germany, but all I remember is snow, okay? But the reality is this. They come back saying there is no other place like this. There is no other place like America. And I teach my kids that, look, regardless of what's actually going on, you're still in a great opportunity to actually achieve great things, son. But don't be so silent that you don't speak up, number one. And number two, don't be so mad that you make everybody else a target and an enemy. And I'll tell you why, because when all this stuff transpired to me, they brought out the worst in me. And one of the brothers from my church was white. He said, he came to me one day, I was at his house for a get-together, and I ended up staying later there than everybody else. And it was his opportunity to really come to me and talk about the stuff. And he told me, he said, Anthony, man, and he don't even call me by really, he even called me by my stage name because he just loves me that way. But he said, hey, Sleep, I couldn't approach you because you were so mad. But it was like this hatred, angry, mad at everybody mad, bro. And I'm your brother in Christ, and I didn't know if I could approach you. I didn't know how to approach you. So it's that ideal that with my kids, I have to get them in the mind frame that it's all right to be mad at what's going on, but take action in the proper way to take action, number one. Number two, don't be so mad to where it's hatred for people just because they're white or just because of the police and things like that. Don't do that, don't do that. What was the second question now? It was how the white friends should react in those situations.
How to be supportive without being dismissive or insulting.
Understood. The interesting thing about having a conversation about civil unrest in our city, racism in our country, or whatever, is that we tend not to be empathetic towards the opposite side because I have to be right. You have to take my side. You need to understand what I'm going through. And if you don't understand what I'm going through, you're blind and you're racist too, and I'm not this Jane. That's how we react. As black people react. But then white people say, well, you should be able to see it my way too. And because you can't see it my way, you're just a closed-minded black man and I'm out. That's how we act. So when we do have those conversations, the way we need to have those conversations across the color line is, first and foremost, it needs to be on this. If I'm the one initiating the conversation on what my experience has been and what I've been going through or what I've been noticing that's going through, then guess what? I don't care if you're white, pink, purple, or polka dot. The main objective of you is to listen to what I'm saying, hear what I'm saying, and see that it is a real experience. Our responses a lot of the times is based upon the fact that we treat other people's experiences, and I'm not even just going to use it in the sense of how white people should react. This is also how black people should react in the same vein, because it needs to be talked about on both sides of the spectrum. We tend to react like your experience is false and it's not actually your experience. It's not your experience because it's not my experience. How can you have my experience and you never had my experience? It's not logical. So my suggestion to you is, and to you also, if you're ever in those situations where something happens and one of your black friends, one of your black partners or people is into something that really triggers them, don't go to war with them on how they see it. Let them be mad. Just don't let them hurt nobody. Support them that much. Support. It's almost like a marriage, right? It's almost like a marriage. You know why marriages don't work? Because don't nobody want to be wrong. It's not the fact that everybody want to be right. Somebody got to eventually be wrong. You know what saved my marriage? Because me and my wife was actually on the verge of divorce. What saved my marriage was the fact that both of us finally said I'm wrong. Somebody said I was wrong. And you're right. And you can be right all day long as it makes my marriage happy to the point where we can start actually having great conversations. So before you rebuttal, you shouldn't have that feeling. And then like I had one person do this. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to give you a great example. Matter of fact, I had somebody do this. Talking about being pulled over by the police as a black person. My thoughts about it might be different and will be different from some whites. So he used an example of his wife being pulled over by the police. And he said, you see how it's the same thing? Just spit in my face and call it raining, right? I'm stupid. Because the reality is, you didn't take the time out to just let me express it and say, you know what, Anthony? You got a right to be mad. You got a right to be angry. And you got a right to voice your opinion, man. Just come to me, talk to me about it. And let's see if we can come up with a reasonable understanding of what we can do to keep you from feeling that way. But by telling somebody your experience, it doesn't help. It's like sitting by somebody's cancer-ridden parent saying, you know what, my mama, she didn't have cancer, but she had a bunion on her big toe. Or even if you say, you know what, I know what it's like to feel like to be having cancer. I don't care that your mama died of cancer. My mama died of cancer. You get what I'm saying? It sounds good in our head, but once we say it, it's honestly the most insulting, inconsiderate thing that we could ever do. So if you was to ever come up to me and say, hey, Anthony, this is what I've experienced, man, dealing with this situation. My objective as a friend and a citizen and a person that is trying to build towards a proper unity is to allow you to express your experience. My job is to look at the experience and try to get you to see what you did right and possibly what you did wrong without me being biased to the situation and imprinting upon you my experience, because your experience is totally different from mine. That's my thoughts here.
Okay, so before I ask a question, I wanted to thank you and validate your point on what you say and how you teach your children comes back in education. Working at Boys and Girls Club with middle schoolers, we had a young man who was being bullied, and we notice a change in his behavior, but his mother most certainly did, and she is a woman of color. And so she came, and I was a little afraid of how this was going to unfold because she was hot, she was mad. But she called a conference between her and her child and the parent and the supposed bully. And they came together, and she asked both boys what was going on. She looked at her son and said, "What's going on, son?" And she looked at the other young man and said, "What's going on?" Because I want to discuss this so we can come to a truce. And then the parents discussed the issue, and right there, that young man's attitude changed immediately. And when he came back to the Boys and Girls Club, he was his regular self. And so was the other young man, and that situation got squashed immediately. And even though we were not technically the educators, us in the school, we got to see that change right there because the parents got involved. So to validate that point of what you said, Dr. Pennywell, I can only imagine, as the one that sees them and tries to teach them everything, I can only imagine. So my question following that is, have you ever seen your child or any of your children being treated in a stereotypical way, and how have you responded to that?
Well, whenever growing up, I honestly did not see a whole lot of that. I saw some. But as they got older, there was a situation when my son, that did happen. And what I did was that I went back and I addressed the gentleman that treated my son in that way. But I also took him with me to let him see, because like I said, he didn't see it, but I did. And I knew the signs of it. So I went back to the gentleman and we talked about it. And the guy that was there, which was not of color, did not know that he had honestly changed his demeanor when he saw us. His language was different. The way he carried himself was different. He thought that he thought maybe that's what he should act because he saw a black young man. But I had to go back to him and explain to him it was not acceptable to me. It was offensive to my son. So that's how I handled that situation. But them growing up, it wasn't a whole lot of that. But what stood out when you said that was that particular situation when he was an older gentleman. Maybe I was grown, weren't you, at the time when that happened. And that's how I handled that. Because the person that was doing that honestly did not see he was doing anything wrong. But his whole, like I said, his demeanor just changed because he saw a black man. And he figured he had to act a certain way. So, and CJ evidently thought, hey, that's the way he's supposed to talk to me. So I had to bring them both together, explain to both of them the behavior was not acceptable. That's how I handled that particular situation.
I know I've had, with my son, it's a little different. It's not so much on the sense of him being black. It's his mannerism that he had to deal with. And I think, I don't know if he deals with it as much, but he's more confident about himself than ever. The biggest thing he had to deal with was his mannerisms. People thought he was going to be gay or is gay, right? So he would have to deal with that on a heavy level. He would always run in the house like the boy down the street just called me gay, Daddy. I'm so glad he knew to come to me because I would tell him, look, if you got any issues with the kids that's messing with y'all, before you slap them, come talk to me, okay? Just come talk to me, please. But it was this one particular situation. One of the little boys told my son, my mama said I can't play with you. I'm like, why? Well, because you act too gay. You act too much like a girl. And he came in with tears in his eyes saying, Dad, he said I can't play with him because it's blah, blah, blah. I said, who? He said, such and such from across the street. I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and handle this, right? So I went over there to the house. She was out there getting out of her car. And I stopped her. I said, excuse me, ma'am. I said, did you tell your son that he can't play with my son because he acts too much like a girl? I said, why did you do that? She said, well, I'm just trying to raise my son so he knows how he's supposed to act. I said, do you not know that you just implanted and imprinted in your son that anybody that acts in a feminine manner, he's to be around? And then also you've actually given him a license to be hateful towards people who are actually in the LGBT community. You've just taught your son how to hate. You know what? I never thought about that, Mr. Carter. I'm sorry. And that boy comes and knocks on my door. Can say, Gianni, come out and play. Now he's there. But it's that idea like, the kid doesn't know that the parents teaching them wrong. And then to even speak on that, I can kind of understand that. Now, I don't know how the demeanor was or how they came to you, but I know that being around some white people, man, they think they got to come to you like they done listened to like 5 years of hip hop. You ain't got to do that with me. That was it. They walk up to yo, son, no. You know what I'm saying? They come trying to dap my hand like we dap. No, I have a job handshake. We can do that. It's all right. We can act like that. So it's really interesting that the ideal, you can tell those individuals who rarely are around people of a different culture because of how they think they got to present themselves too. No, be white. It's all right. I love you because you're white. You know what I'm saying? I'm black. Love me because I'm black. Now let's sit down and have a conversation about football, please. You know what I'm saying? Or something. So, but with my kids, in the sense of that, the stereotypical thing is boys who act like this and talk like this and do like that, they're gay. And I can't hang around people who do this and act like this and talk like this. And the reason why it strikes a chord with me so bad, I was bullied as a kid. My brother was bullied and he was called gay and faggot and all that other stuff and everything like that in the book and all that crazy stuff. And because of that, my brother almost committed suicide. Almost killed himself. Because of that foolishness right there. So be mindful of how you approach, because it might not be to that trigger, just you just treating people in the sense of like that. You coming to me thinking you gotta act black. It's irking. But it's just no different than black people going to the white people thinking they gotta act white. You know what I'm saying? Just be you. Be who you are. There's a certain thing as business mannerisms in the way we talk. Now, once we outside of business, be yourself, man. If you slouch and dig up your nose, do it. That's your business. There's nothing wrong with it. Just don't shake my hand.
I've been watching the two of you up there, and it's like, okay, we got Bello down over here on the left, and then we got Mr. Fireman on the right. And so it must have something to do with environment, because I mean, some of the conversations we've had in the past, we've dealt with race, but we've never dealt with socioeconomics. So we've never dealt with the fact that, you know, it sounds like you raised your sons not in an urban setting, or you raised your children in a non-urban setting, and you are raising your children in an urban setting as being an urbanized person. So can you speak to the difference, to that difference?
Well, I noticed that in his response, in my head, I know that his background is different, and I understand his response as with mine is different. So that's my response to that, because I can tell that we're different, but I like the way it is, because not only am my race, my age different, I'm a lot older. So my views and my thoughts and the way I saw things, the way I raised my kids, they're going to be different. And with him, he's like, now, this is the way it is. And I can see him in this conversation, I can see my children that I teach. So I can understand and can also agree with some of his things he said. So I kind of like the mix up here. I do.
I mean, my mannerisms, in all honesty, I get some of them from my dad. My dad is it's the way he does his body, like you just have to see it. I can't explain it. My mom and my brothers always said, you think you move just like dad, cuz I hate it, right? Because me and him really don't get along. But anyway, but I'm also birthed off of hip hop. So a lot of my mannerisms comes from that element. I was born in 81. I think 82, 83.
But that's the age of my oldest.
You know what I'm saying? So you're looking at 82, 83. My first introduction to hip hop was watching the movie Beat Street, and then seeing other little elements that came along with hip hop, the breakdance, the movements, the swag of the body and stuff like that. So I am honestly, like even with my poetry, if you pay attention to how I deliver it, I'm birthed straight off of hip hop. That's my foundation when it comes to my art. But when it comes to anything else, I am the way I am because of passion, because of who I am and my experience. She is who she is because of her experiences and things of that nature. And people are just built different, you know, because you can have somebody that's from my generation still sitting up here being just as calm, cool, and collective as she is. You can.
Not with children.
Huh?
Not the children your age.
Oh, no, I'm talking about my age.
I mean children that are your age right now. Because I've been through the phase you're going through
Right.
now. I'm about where you are, almost as mellow. Almost.
And perhaps as I get older, I might mellow out. I mean, I might not. It just all depends on what God puts on my heart.
Yeah.
But it's that idea that I am birthed off of, but I'm also birthed off of action and reaction. I'm birthed off of that idea that, you know, the fact that you're sitting over there with your hands in your pocket looking over here, I wonder if you got something. You know, it's the fact that I'm an observer, but not only that, your actions causes my quick reactions. And my passion for things is based upon the fact that all I've seen, what I've been through, and things of that nature. So it's just intriguing. But as far as like the economic concept, growing up in a home where my old stumping ground was Stonegate, off of Riceboro Road. That's my old home. That's my hood. That's why I grew up at. That's why I banged at. That's what it was. At the end of the day, it's also growing up with a mother who did not achieve everything she wanted to achieve and sacrificed so much to make sure that we could do something better with our lives. You get what I'm saying? Or for a marriage that was faithful. You get what I'm saying? Coming from all that in our background, stuff like that. But I also had a mama that poured into me a lot of education about her history, black history. When she found out I was excited about studying Malcolm X and the Black Panther movement, things of that nature. She wanted to make sure that I understood it from the proper view and not from this ideal of, you know, everybody loves the poster of Malcolm X with the gun, you know, by any means necessary, not understanding that he wasn't saying by it. That quote in that picture is not right, first and foremost, because he was holding the gun to protect his family from the very people he was trying to uplift. All right? And then by any means necessary wasn't necessarily on the sense just go out there and blow up some stuff. He said we're peaceful as long as you're peaceful to us. So let's get his quotes right before we quote it and walk around with a shirt on our chest. But also I like he said in my bio, I finally accepted the role of being a minister. So a lot of what I am and how I present things even comes from that. So it's a lot of different layers to anybody, but those are the layers of me. I mean, my father, he was a hoodlum. You know, he's a hoodlum, and he did things that he has a vice spirit. I got a vice spirit. Like, could you see me on alcohol? I don't drink because I'll be all. I mean, I promise you, just lock me up, put me in a padded room, and it's over. So, but I get your question though. I do get it. I'm just cut from a different cloth. It's just a totally different cloth that I'm cut from. And yeah, and we balance it. That Cool Calm Collective is great though, because it balances out the equation. Could you imagine two of us sitting up here really calm or really hyped? You're like, breathe. Somebody turn down. For what?
Well, there's a third question. And we'll get to that. Let me, as we continue for a few more minutes, thank y'all for participating, for engaging, and thank y'all again. You know, I'll say it 100 times. Thank y'all for reading. Like y'all were my first two picks. I was listening because we took a few months off. We didn't have a focus on Mother's Day or Father's Day, and I was going to do those separately, but then I was like, we bring them together and talk about parents and God. So thank you for being here. The third question I sent to him kind of to reflect on, and it was the third because of the previous two questions, was this. And how they raise and have raised their children, and how they have had to talk with their children or having to talk. And unfortunately, because I feel this will occur and will continue to occur, I asked them to share their insight on how young adults and how we as adults should react to situations like the shooting of Philandro Castile.
That situation, it was a terrible situation. All I could think about, what if that was my son? All I could, when I read that and watched the video, I said to myself, Lord, what if that was my son? My first thought would be, I want justice for my son. I would want justice when why this happened to my son. And that's because I just can't fathom it when it happened to my son. All right.
That video was hard to watch. I mean, it was. Who saw that video? Raise your hand. Now, who saw the video where, not the one that was on Facebook, in the car, who saw it where they had the police cam plus the, if you haven't seen it, you need, I'm not going to say you need to see it, but Lord knows, I'm going to give the politically correct answer, okay? I'm going to give you a politically we have a generation of young people trying to find their mark in the world. So let's first acknowledge that. We have a group of young people who react to things in montage fashion. So I'm going to say it's very unpopular amongst some people who have reacted and called for action. We have a generation of kids that react in montage fashion. If you don't know what I mean, let me explain what I mean. What I mean by montage fashion, if you ever watch those movies of history or Remember the Titans, with Denzel Washington football team, and it gets to that part where they're starting to actually work well together, and now you're getting clips of them real fast, speeding up to that last game. That's how we react to situations. That's how we react to what's going on. We react in montage fashion, guys. So my response to my young people, when we see those things that do happen, when we see these videos, when we see injustice happening, before you react out of anger, because it's easy to do that, we need to react off of the basis of looking at it from how to deal with it from a structured power sense. And what I mean by that is, ask the question, if you want to change what's going on with your police department, you need to change who's running the police department. You do that by voting. You do that by being involved in your politics and your city politics and knowing what's going on with it. I'll be the first to tell you I need to get better at that. I vote, but I don't know the full spectrum of what goes on politically in the city of Augusta, Georgia. And that's sad. I should know, being that I should be this activist. But I should know, right? But the reality is this. You ask the majority of your individuals who claim to be artistic activists, or claim to be young activists, and you ask them, well, who are the political figures in your city? There's a big question mark probably over and above their head. We're reacting off of hatred and not off of education and proper knowledge. We're reacting off of the emotions that we feel for the situation that just occurred, rather than sitting back and trying to say, how can we strategically plan and operate? Because we operate on montage fashion, because guess what? History books have taught us, our history classes in school has taught the civil rights movement in montage fashion. They didn't teach us that a lot of those marches and movements, and when it picked up, was already being supported by grassroots operations that had years of failure, try again, failure, try again, failure, try again. So when we try to make a movement or try to be mobile, vocal, the reason why it dies out because the grassroots are not the ones making it happen, because guess what? We don't have enough grassroots to actually make it happen. It's just like that old saying, you know, Rosa Parks, she didn't sit down because she was tired. She was strategically planted there. Well, come on. That's intelligent right there. That's sitting back, looking at it from a knowledgeable base on how I can actually make this thing work for the betterment. So they picked a woman who had a higher rank or something like that, or a good person who had a high seat in one of the community groups that was going on, put her in a position. What'd you say? Say it.
A solid citizen, a reputable person.
Thank you. They put her in a position where, guess what? If they touched her, it was going to cause a media uprising. If they messed with you, it was going to cause a media uprising. It was going to be a sight to see. Just imagine, and I'm only going to use this as an example, not saying this brother has to do this. Just imagine if Cardi Davis was the one picked to be the political figure to take a fall. for a cause. But then you gotta also ask yourself, what grassroots operations are there to support it? Just no different than, I'll give you an example, the whole Kaepernick football thing, right? If anybody's familiar with that, the man taking a knee during the national anthem and all that other stuff, right? All right? He did it, that's a political figure. Caused the media uprising. Other players joined them, but there was no grassroots operation to actually keep it going. We went into the streets and said, we want justice for such and such, and police need to be held accountable. Come with something written on paper saying this is what we actually really want, and hold them accountable to make it done. What made the civil rights movement, and the reason why I'm going back to that is because it's brought up when we have these situations, is that the brilliance of it, they came with something specific that they wanted. It wasn't just vague. They didn't just walk in there, we want justice for black people. We want justice for women. That sounds really great. But at the end of the day, guess what? What exactly do you want to try to achieve? Oh, we want to be able to vote. We want to be able to have the same wages. We want to be able to eat where we want to be able to eat without having. We want to be able to go to the schools that they got specific in what they wanted. How should young people react if they see it as an injustice? You approach the situation with an actual politically written out plan. Give you an example of a plan that can be put out on paper, presented to your councilman, and fought for. All right, if there is a police shooting that does happen in Augusta, Georgia, the precinct, the city itself, has no business investigating the shooting. Take it to a higher court level. Something from out of town needs to come in and investigate. On top of that, the family, whether they black or white, Hispanic or whatever, the family whose lives have been investigated also has the right and should have the right to hire their own investigator outside of the police precinct to investigate it too. You see, it's something that's tangible that can be presented. But just to stand up and say, we want justice, walk down the street with a slogan on your shirt. Now somebody done made a whole lot of money off of the death of a young man on the block. Come on, capitalism at its best, baby. Come on. Come on. So let's be 100 and honest about the situation, ladies and gentlemen. Young people, if you're on their Facebook Live and watching, the best way to do it is don't go out there off of emotions and passion and the fact that you're sick and tired of 600 years of whatever you might be sick and tired of. Get tangible, written down something and somebody to represent what's tangible and written down to get the job done. If it's a police shooting that is happening in the city of Augusta, the precincts, no matter where, the city has no business investigating that shooting. It needs to be an investigation brought from the outside, and the family members should have the right to have an investigator also to investigate what's going on. Does that mean it's going to be given to us? No, but it means we got something to fight for. We have something tangible to speak about. We have an actual situation on the books that can be looked at. The only thing history will write when we look at it in 500 years from now, if the good Lord expects this earth and wants this earth to continue to move, is that all they yelled for was justice. But they wasn't specific in what they wanted justice for. So guess what they got? They got a body camera and some more shootings. Wake up. Because if they're not being convicted off of you having a cell phone, what makes you think the body camera gonna do any better? And if they got that cameras on their own police cars, so what makes you think all that? They gave you something to pacify the movement. And you accepted it and quieted it down. If you got something tangible, connect with your grassroots organization and make it work. Study your history. Study the civil rights movement. They had something tangible. Everybody likes to talk about, I'm on my rant. Everybody likes to talk about the Black Panther Party for self-defense and stuff like that, and how they was out there with the guns and looking like this and doing that and mobilizing like this. Do you not know the reason why they grew? Because they said, Huey P. Newton said this, we can't build up no real crazy dissertation and nothing like that because the brother on the block is going to be like, look, man, I ain't got time to read all this. I got to go to work. They came up with 10 points. Simplistic. Handed it out. People looked at it and said, I can dig this. I can get down with this. I can ride with this. Where's the meeting at? They showed up to the meeting to get better educated on what those 10 points was going to be broken down into. was going to be broken down into. Don't get so caught up on the march that you forget about having actual tangible things to represent. The march was to promote what you wanted. It was to promote the actual written thing that you wanted. And then who's going to be your spokesperson that goes in front of the people that actually speak for them? That's another question. Because Martin Luther King didn't want the job. All right, I'm done. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You're good, man. You're good.
Woo!
Good.
We're going to let y'all take a break. Actually, we're going to bring it to a close. Please give our two guests a big round of applause. Have y'all enjoyed yourselves this evening? Have you learned something tonight? Good. These are, as you can hopefully tell, these are two very intelligent, intuitive people, and I am sure if you had some personal one-on-one questions, if they're here for a few minutes, they would be willing to answer them. Just a couple of things as we close up tonight. One, including our two panel guests, if you share tonight in poetry, as always, when you finish, we want to get a group picture with everybody in front of the banner. So make sure you hang out for just like 5 more minutes. A reminder, as I said at the beginning, this is an event that the Poetry Matters Project has the honor of hosting in collaboration with the Book Tavern. This is our fourth, but we took a few months off. This is our fourth gathering, and we want to continue the conversation, and we hope y'all come and continue to be a part of the conversation and bring others with you. How about that? Can we make I put that out there next time, make a point to bring somebody with you. If you're watching on Facebook, please make a point to be here in person as well, because we want to hear your questions. There is a display inside. If you've never been in a Book Tavern, shame on you. Two, there is a display facing the counter, and David, who's in the back, the store owner, or Michael, who's in there, that's working right now, can show you there are a number of books on display that cover the history, the civil rights. There's some works from Baldwin, who I love, that cover just this whole array of topics and then some, and they can show you. And Michael said that if you go in tonight, he'll give you 10% off when you purchase. So pick up a book tonight before they close in 30 minutes. But I don't know if he asked David about that, but he said he would do it. Poetry Matters Project is a non-profit organization that has been promoting the power of poetry for over 17 years. It's been doing this through contests, publications, school programs, open mic nights, and a whole lot more. Its mission statement, and I love saying this at the end of every one of these events because it's exactly on point. Its mission statement is to build community connection through collaboration under the guise of poetry. And that's what happened tonight. So I'll tell you about a couple of events and then I'll let you go. August 23rd, this is not a public event per se, but I want you to know some of the work of Poetry Matters. There will be a number of us at ILMC, which is I made sure to put it, the Intermediate Literacy and Math Center, which is at the old National Hill School. And they work with at-risk children and youth, do a math, super hyper-focused in math and literacy. And Poetry Matters, a few of us went out last semester and some poetry, kids got excited, and they were all over Lucinda saying, please come back. And so there will be a kickoff, a General Assembly, August 23rd. Some of the poets of Poetry Matters will be reading and initiating a program that's going to last the entire school year. Anthony, I know, is going to be a part of it in September as well. If you have questions about that program or being a part, please touch base with Lucinda. But they are in our schools. We are in our schools making a difference. Looking forward to that. September 3rd, or I said it wrong, September 5th. Conscience, raise your hand if you weren't here earlier. September 5th at 6:30 p.m. at Higher Grounds Cafe, which is by the Goodwill on Furious Ferry Road, free, just like tonight. He will be our featured poet, so we'll have an open mic time, and then he's going to be hitting the mic for 20-30 minutes. Looking forward to hearing more about him. Great guy in our community. September 15th, you probably already know about Arron Snow, but that Friday night, the Troubadour stage is going to be in the building next door. The door's building right here. So one, that's the only stage inside. So you need to come and get some AC. But Friday night, Poetry Matters has the stage for the whole night. So there's going to be an open mic segment. There's also going to be some featured poets. Again, if you have the badge to get into Arts in the Heart, then you just walk in the door and come hang out with us. We'd love for you to be a part. And this I'm telling you, September's kicking. The following Saturday, and you got the poster back there. The following Saturday at the Augusta University Somerville campus, the Barry Fleming Book Festival is going on all day. Poetry Matters is not only a sponsor of the event, from Lucinda to a number of us as poets are engaged in panels, emerging writers, performing. We're going to be all over the place that day. But see the flyer so that you can get the Facebook page, our address off of this before you leave, and come hang out with us over at AU at the Somerville campus. David, any Book Tavern events you want to share? Anything besides come by a book?
Yeah, so during Arts in the Heart, we also have Authors Alley. There'll be local and regional authors here in the lobby of our building and kind of pouring out on the sidewalk. That goes on all weekend of Arts in the Heart. We'll also have Artzilla here, live painting during Arts in the Heart. And September 1st, we are kicking off a new Book on the Box show called There Ain't No Daylight. It's a retrospective of Vietnam War literature. So that was inspired by Tom Hubbard, whose journals are on display right now at the Augusta Main Branch Public Library. I can tell you who goes about it. Just go. But yeah, go to Facebook, look at our events. It's all there, I think. Kim can tell you if he was here. I don't know. I just let them do their thing.
So again, thank you for being here. If you shared, real quick, we'd like to get a group photo. Bring somebody next time. Also, go find this event on the Book Tavern page and share the video from tonight. We recorded all of this, so please share it. Yes, sir.
What's our next?
October. So, sign up. Put your email down on the Poetry Matters email list, because then you will be the first to know about all of our events. Everything Poetry Matters, because there's a lot more we couldn't even cover tonight. Thank you. Please give our panel guests one more big round.